Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports. And if you're in the market for up-to-date swing state data about the 2024 election, we think we're the best, trusted, most independent place to go, because all of those major multimedia corporations right now putting out mega swing state polls probably have all kinds of undisclosed interests. We're just trying to be accurate. Now, this poll is sponsored graciously by the Heartland Institute. And because of that, you'll be able to see the crosstabs and the questions yourself, which I'll put a link in the YouTube description. This poll was collected before the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But the important thing to know now that Joe Biden has officially dropped out of the race is that we've been expecting this for a long time. We've put Kamala Harris questions into the field. And believe it or not, Kamala Harris, time and time again, polls with a lower favorability than Joe Biden. She does 0 to 1 points less than Joe Biden in matchups against Trump. And really, most Democrats didn't really want her that bad as a replacement. So we think these numbers are still very important. And if you've been following us and you saw our previous video, this video here, where we go into this poll's national results, you'll know that in that poll, Donald Trump was only beating Joe Biden by 3 points, which is the lowest that we had Donald Trump in 8 months. Now, we think that's because of a very real circling the wagon effect that Democrats had after Joe Biden's really horrendous debate performance. I think logically you'd say, how can anybody support Joe Biden after he was proven on the world stage to be not mentally there? But the thing is that a lot of people said to themselves, oh man, wow, another Donald Trump presidency might be a real possibility now. I have to vote Joe Biden. But I think it's important to note that when we look at all of these individual swing state results, that this comes from an overarching sample that leaned closer to Biden than all of the polling that we've done since last November. So bearing all of that in mind, let's get into the results. We're going to go at these one state at a time. Now, we're not going to get into the demographics. You can go download them yourselves. There's a lot of very important information. If I was any candidate in any of these swing states, I would be going into those crosstabs and comparing how my race is doing against Donald Trump's, because in almost all of these, Donald Trump is winning by the most margin. But here's Arizona. It's also important to point out that a lot of the polls that you're seeing right now are still registered voters, which we don't think is an accurate representation of who actually turns out in elections. And these are some really beefy polls. 5 out of the 6 of them are over 1,000 respondents. But here, polled July 5th through 12th, 1,100 Arizona likely voters responding, Donald Trump is winning by almost 9 points over Joe Biden. And I put the 2020 results in here, and this is an incredible 9-point swing from where he was doing just 4 years ago. He leads by almost the same amount in the 6-way matchup. And right now, the Real Clear Politics average has Donald Trump only up 6 in Arizona. So our polling is more favorable, but it's not going to be in every single one of these states. However, the Republicans are only leading on the generic ballot by 4 points. So Donald Trump is beating the Republicans handily, and Kari Lake is now down 2.6 points on Ruben Gallego. We actually did Kari Lake polling in February and June and also showed her down slightly. In Georgia, Trump isn't doing as well as Arizona, but he's still leading by 5.6 points, well outside of the margin of error, 5.4 points in the 6-way matchup. Again, like almost a 6-point swing since 2020, and slightly more right than the Real Clear Politics average. There's no Senate race in Georgia, but Trump is actually trailing congressional Republicans by a little over 2 points. Michigan is, and I'd basically call this a tie, up slightly in the 6-way, But it's a 2.5 point correction from 2020. And Real Clear Politics actually has Trump up by 2 points in Michigan. So we're a little left there. The Republicans are trailing by 1.5 points. So Trump is doing slightly better than your generic Republican. However, Rogers is down a lot on Slotkin, 3.5 points, but nowhere near the discrepancy of Arizona. Here's Nevada. Trump is up 5, a ridiculous, 7.7, almost 8 point swing since 2020. And he's doing way better in the 6-way matchup. So it seems that adding in choices into the question of Kennedy and all the other characters makes a lot of those Biden voters defect. The Real Clear Politics average is 5.6. It looks like we're pretty spot on there. Republicans are tied with Democrats on the generic ballot. So Trump's leading them by 5 points. And Jackie Brown is down 2.5. Starting to see a trend here. Here's Pennsylvania. Trump's up 3, over a 4-point turnaround since 2020. He's up 4.8, almost 5 points in the 6-way, a comfortable lead outside the margin of error and right in line with the Real Clear Politics average. Republicans are up 3, so Trump's doing roughly about the same as them, but David McCormick is down 3 points. On to Wisconsin. And Trump is up by a little over a point within the margin of error, up 2.6 points at the margin of error. In the 6-way race, he's up about, a little over 3 points since 2020. And this is lefter than the Real Clear Politics average. Republicans in this state and this state only are leading Trump by a pretty significant margin. That's interesting. And Hovde is down 4 points. Here is the overall battleground results. I couldn't do anything with the Senate results, but I have Trump's numbers in the generic ballot here. 5,600 likely voter results. A lot of people, one of the biggest polls we've ever run. Trump is leading in all of the battlegrounds by 5 points, which isn't quite as much if you average out all of our national matchups. Most recently, Trump was up 3 points nationally in this poll. So he's actually doing better in the battlegrounds than he's doing nationally. I think a lot of that has to do with blue anons in California and New York. But in our previous matchups, Trump was up 6 points. Going back further, he was up 9 and then 10. So if you averaged out last couple of results, Trump is probably up somewhere in the 6 to 7 point vicinity. In a 2024 6-way matchup in the battlegrounds, Trump's up almost 6 points, a really massive lead, and that is almost a 7-point turnaround from the 2020 results. They're really going to have to break a lot of water pipes if they want to win this election in November. Republicans are leading in the generic ballot by 4 points, slightly less than Trump. Republicans are structurally trailing Democrats by roughly 3 points, 6 points worse than your generic congressional Republican, and 7 points worse than Trump. People really should be downloading these results and looking at the demographics and targeting places where the Senate race is doing worse than Trump. I mean, it's free. This data is free. Just go download it and look at who you need to target with your advertising spend. Now, this is going to be another interesting week. Maybe not as interesting as the week after an assassination attempt on the leading presidential candidate, but the race is changing in ways that are really hard to predict. Now, we haven't put Trump-Kamala Harris matchup questions into the field yet. Probably needs a few days for everything to stabilize, and we should probably test another couple candidates as well. But what we do have coming soon in the next couple of days is our first post-assassination attempt Trump-Biden matchup numbers. Now, again, Kamala Harris polls pretty close to Biden. So, he has some form of dementia, but I guess, all of his decades in government cancels that out, or her unlikability is roughly equivalent in voters' minds to Joe Biden's dementia. I don't know. I guess we'll have to ask a bunch of questions to find out. But at any rate, the big news is that Trump's numbers are surging again, widening the race. So if you're one of those people on YouTube posting nasty comments, come on. These things swing around, and this election cycle is like none we've ever seen. If you want to stick with us, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Rasmussen_poll. Subscribe on YouTube or Rumble. It's free. And while you're there, please like the video. You can hit me up as well on Twitter at Mark_R_Mitchell. And thanks for watching.